Good morning, Leslie Ellis kindergartners. This morning, we are going to do another experiment with liquids. We've already tried to measure volume and used a lot of different measuring cups. We also had an exploration of viscosity, which is the thickness of liquids. And this morning, we're going to talk about a few different types of experiments. Unluckily, I can't do all of them here, but I'm going to give you some ideas for experiments that you might do. One of the experiments that I'm not going to be able to do is a color mixing activity because I only have one color of food coloring at my house. So if you were interested in doing a color mixing activity, you might, if you were lucky enough to have cool containers like this, but you could use cups or glasses and fill them with liquid and add a little bit of different food colorings. I recommend starting with just yellow, blue, and red for the beginning. And then if you're lucky enough to have a pipette or a pipette, I'm really not sure how to pronounce that word, or even a straw, neither of which I have at my house at all. You can use a straw like a pipette. You can dunk it into the liquid and then hold your finger over the top, and that way the liquid will hold in it while you move it to another container. So unluckily, I'm not going to be able to do that experiment today, but I hope you get a chance to. We are going to be doing two different experiments today. We're going to be mixing some different liquids, and we're going to start with mixing some water and oil. Now, if you're thinking like a scientist, you probably already know something about water and oil, and you may have a prediction on what is going to happen. And I am going to do two experiments here because it's a really good idea when you're doing an experiment to have what's called a control experiment. That means the experiment that doesn't have the extra thing added in. So I'm going to do two experiments here, and I'm going to do oil and water in both. I'm going to use corn oil for this one. Corn oil. I'm going to pour it into here, and I'm going to pour about the same amount into this one. I think that's about the same amount. And now I'm just going to add water. You may already be knowing that certain things are going to happen. Water. I'm going to try to give you a close-up view of what is happening there. And I'm going to add water to the next one too, because one of these two is going to be my control experiment. About the same amount. All right. Now let's see. Those kind of look a lot like each other right now. If you notice, the oil and water are doing something a little bit different. I realized I forgot to get one special ingredient that I need for this experiment, which is soap. This is my soap dispenser from my sink. I'm going to add soap to one. I'm going to give it a few squirts. All right. Now, so this is my control experiment. This just has oil and water. This, I've decided to add soap to see if anything is going to happen. All right. Now, I'm going to take my funnel and set it to the side. I was noticing on these cool containers that I have, glass containers, that they actually have a lever system on the top that holds the lid on. This is the fulcrum of the lever right there, and it seals like that. Let's see if I can get this one sealed. All right, now, I forgot to make a label, but if I remember correctly, this is the one with oil and water and soap. I'm going to do the same thing to both of them. I'm going to shake them. And then I'm going to set them aside. And I'll leave them here in your view so you can see what is happening. Ooh, maybe this one is the one with the soap in it. What do you think? They do definitely look different right now. But I'm also gonna leave them while I do my next experiment. My next experiment is kind of more like an art project. I have another lovely bottle here, and I found some nice, what I call mineral oil. It is clear, and so it is much nicer to use if you are making an art project like this. I'm gonna pour a bunch of oil in here. And you remember also that I told you I was going to use food coloring today. So I'm going to, maybe I'll put a little bit more oil in there. I've got lots of this. I use this to oil this big table in my kitchen that I'm working on today. All right. Now, what I'm making is kind of like an ocean bottle. And so now I'm gonna add water. And I'm gonna try to fill the whole thing up, all the way up, so I don't have a lot of air left. Oop, little spill, that's okay. And I'm gonna pour a tiny bit of that off so I can fit in the food coloring. Now, I've heard that food coloring mixes better with water than it does with oil, and I'm gonna see if that is true. Now I've got slimy oil and food coloring here, so I'm just gonna grab some paper towels, which are right over here by my sink. I should have remembered to keep these out right away. All right, I'm gonna wipe that down. Now, which is the oil in this, and which do you think is the water? Do you think the food coloring mixed with water, or did the food coloring mix with oil? And I'm gonna keep this. And I'm hoping actually on bringing it to school next year and have it be something in the room. Even though it's made out of glass, I'm just gonna ask kids to be very careful with it. All right, let's see. I'm gonna clean up my hands a tiny bit more. And I'm going to move this here so you can see. Now we're gonna check in with our first experiment a little bit. And we're gonna figure out what happened with our control experiment with corn oil and water, and what happened with our addition of soap. Now it seems that, you can make your own observations about what you think is happening here. So I have a few ideas on other projects that you might want to make. You might want to make an ocean like this. You also might want to freeze water. This is something that we get a chance to do sometimes in the classroom, especially in the hot weather. And we can put water in a water table or water in a little kiddie pool, or you can freeze that water and just play with it as a huge ice cube. And I have a demonstration here. This is a plastic container that you might want to find something similar like this at your house, and make a huge ice cube and then add it to a kiddie pool or add it to a sink or a bathtub. And I recommend putting some toys inside the ice cube so that they freeze into it. It makes it a lot of fun to play that. All right. Also, I was thinking you might want to make popsicles or do other experiments with liquids. All right, let me see. I just want to talk to you a little bit about scientific method before we say goodbye. Scientific method is the method that scientists of all types use. And what they do first is they come up with a question. Like my question today was, will soap and water and oil look different than just soap and water? And then you design an experiment, which is what I've done already this morning. And then you do the experiment, which is what you've just watched me do. And then I hope you have observed the experiment as I've observed. I realized I should have, next time I'm doing the experiment, I'm gonna have my soap ready, and I'm gonna have my paper towels ready, and I'm gonna try to pour a little bit more carefully. And then when you finish your first experiment, what you're gonna do is you're gonna think to yourself, did that experiment work out the way I wanted it to? Am I surprised by any of the things that I noticed in the experiment? And then you think of new questions, and you think of new experiments that you might want to do, and you persevere. That means you try and try again. Scientists don't just try to do something once. They do something over and over and over again. And they really persevere until they figure out whatever it is they're trying to figure out. All right, thank you for joining me this morning. I will talk to you all later. Bye.